Sarah? Mayors. Okay. Am I live? Okay. Good evening and welcome. Welcome to the Candidate Forum sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Ottumwa. My name is Jean Dell and I am with the League, and I'm going to list the other members who didn't get any recognition the last time we met. Helping us tonight is Deb Pumphrey, Christine Moore, Caroline Perrone, Mary Gaskell, Sarah Sells, Constance Johnson, and Peg Lazio. And forgive me if I have missed somebody. When you entered the chambers tonight, you would have been given a card on which you could write your question. League will ask one question of the candidates, and all the other questions will come from those of you who will be voting for them. It helps us if you want the same question asked of the mayoral candidates as the city council candidates, just write on the bottom, ask both. You don't have to rewrite the question on a different card. In general, the rules for the forum will be the same as they have been for all the others. The mayoral candidates will meet with us first, and the city council candidates will meet with us at approximately 7 p.m. Most of the rules are the same. In order to maintain equality for everyone, they are seated in alphabetical order. They each have access to a microphone. They will have, each of them has a nameplate so you know who they are. We've also, because this is, I don't know the nomenclature, I believe it is live streamed on GOTV, and then it's also on YouTube. Next time, we've learned from the audience, we will make the nameplates bigger so you can read them on YouTube. Sorry about that. And we've been asked to highlight the person who is speaking. So when you cast your ballot or hear an idea you like, you will know which of the candidates was saying that. The rules are the same in terms of each candidate having time to make a 1.5-minute opening statement. Each of them will have 1 minute to answer questions, and they will each have the opportunity to make a 2-minute closing statement in which they can wrap up what they've said and hopefully, if they're elected, what they would like to accomplish. I think you all know the election will be on November 2nd. You may do other important things that day, but you might want to do them after you've voted. We will, as I said, we're going to meet with the mayoral candidates, and before we ask questions, we will ask each of them to make their opening statements, and we will start with Rick Bick.
Thank you. It's really good to be here, and I'm excited about to be running for mayor. My wife Jan and I have lived here for over 12 years, and we see lots of potential for opportunities to grow our community. I currently pastor New Life Center. I serve as a chaplain to the police department. I'm also on the board and current president of Heartland Pregnancy Center. It gives me, so I have lots of insights into basic family life into the community. I see a lot of things as a police chaplain. I see a lot of things people don't need to see, but it helps me understand what's going on behind the scenes. I have a Bachelor of Arts from Life Bible College. I have a Master of Arts in Strategic Leadership from Life Pacific University. When I first moved here, I was awed by our city slogan. It says, City of Bridges, River of Opportunity. To me, it was inspiring and encouraging. When one thinks about that, about our airport, our highway access, our rail capabilities, one can see all sorts of ways to develop local business opportunities and to inspire major businesses to relocate here. So I've often wondered what would happen if Ottumwa became a debt-free city. how would businesses look at that? And would that inspire them more to want to come here to a city that's that? It's a hard thing to do, but it's achievable. It would take a long time. And additionally, since we have a diverse population, a great goal would be to have unity in our community. So that's Ottumwa. Ask not what Ottumwa can do for you, but what you can do for Ottumwa.
Thank you, Rick. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Gene. I'd like to extend a thank you to the League of Women Voters for having this second community forum. I'm glad to see that people have chosen to come out again tonight to hear us speak. I am running for mayor of Ottumwa. I grew up here. This is my hometown, for those of you that might not know that. I have one grown son and 4 grandchildren. My son lives in Nevada, Iowa. And I'm running for mayor basically for one reason and one reason only. I believe in Ottumwa, and I believe Ottumwa has terrific potential that still needs to be worked on in the future. And because I have been an area administrator and a CEO for the past 36 years, I feel I'm very well qualified to lead the city in the future and to address all of the issues that is in the comprehensive 2040 plan that the city council and the mayor and the city administrator have diligently put together last year. I think Ottumwa has a lot of potential, and I feel like I know what the issues are of Ottumwa. This is my hometown. I know a lot of people that live here, have had a lot of conversations with people. I also think it's important that people have an opportunity to be heard and be listened to and to be transparent. I think sometimes people don't always feel like they're being heard, and people need to feel like they're being heard. And I'm very much for open communication and having people give you feedback on how they think you're doing. So if I'm fortunate enough to be your mayor, I will give this job 100% and appreciate the opportunity to answer some of your questions this evening.
Thank you, Rick.
So the first question is a league question. So Ottumwa is expected to receive several $1 million from the American Rescue Plan. So although we don't have all of the information or know all of the constraints at this time, what are your initial thoughts on what should be done with that money and why?
Mr. Johnson, you have the opportunity to answer the first question.
I think it's really important that the city, and they've done this already, has tried to solicit community input from the people of Ottumwa on how they think they could use some of the ARPA funding that the city and the county has been given. I think that when you get additional money that you're not normally expected to have, it's always good to look at those pet projects or larger projects that are pretty expensive to implement that could be one-time funded projects with this additional money. So I really think the city's done a good job of getting some support from the community. I know one of the things they're looking at is a joint dispatch for the city and the county police department. And I think that's a really needed enhancement to our joint law enforcement center. So I know that's one thing that they are looking at trying to use some of those ARPA funds for.
Thank you, Rick. Mr. Bick?
Yes. Well, I'm kind of not real aware of that, but I would think that if we have this money coming, first I want to ask, what is the conditions of the money? Is there stipulations on how we use it, or can we just use it anywhere? Then I would think that you would have to ask city leaders in that to see where it's needed most. And I agree with Rick that I have heard that part of it should go to the law enforcement center for better communication between the departments. I know firsthand experience that sometimes in the radio communications, they have breakdowns and it makes it kind of difficult. They could use some upgrade in radio equipment. So yeah, ask the city what city leaders and city department heads where the money needs to go to, where it would be used to the best, to the advantage of the city.
Okay. So our next question is from Anthony Christner. What is your position on new housing development, and what will you do to help increase new homes?
Mr. Bick, you may begin.
Okay. Before you time me, is that the question that you guys were going to ask us originally when you sent out the flyer?
Actually, no, this is an actual audience question.
Okay, because it sounds, can you read it again? Because it sounds like the question that you sent us in your flyer.
Yes, so what is your position on new housing developments, and what will you do to help increase new homes?
Okay. Okay. Well, first of all, we do need new housing development. So I would think that right now that we need to, I would look at real estate brokers and have them provide a survey reassuring builders that there are pre-approved buyers out there ready to build the houses. We need to streamline building permits so that you get a one-stop shop, that you don't have to go to all sorts of different departments to get your building permits. Reduced fees, do that. Look at tax abatements for 10 years. Look at offering free water hookup, free sewer hookup, and then work with, because of the investment, work with lenders so that if it takes longer to sell, that the builder's profits aren't eaten up by interest payments. There's other things we can do, but that's what I have for now. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, housing is a critical shortage in Ottumwa, and it's one of the things that's addressed in the 2040 assessment plan that the city's put together. So I am supportive of looking at different ways to help finance new housing projects. One of the things that I think is always going to be asked is tax abatement and how long should you do that? I do think there's other things that the city can also provide that don't cost a lot of money, and that's to help make sure that developers have assistance in looking at different locations that they might want to put a development in, make sure that they understand the process for getting the appropriate permits, making sure that they have the proper zoning that they need. There's a lot of technical assistance and cursory things that the city can do to help any new prospective developer. I also think that the tax increment financing can be an avenue for funding new developments, but I also think you have to be careful when the city gives out money for infrastructure and utilities that you be careful, because you might have to pay that back if the project's not successful.
Okay.
Okay, so we had another housing question. So this is from Marty Anderson, who writes, I'm concerned as a city who would even consider a 20-year tax abatement of the Bonita apartment complex. Per the Times Republican, which is a Marshalltown newspaper, the city of Ottumwa offered Hugo Rich developers a 20-year tax abatement for a 108-unit apartment complex. Is this true, or did the developers come to the council?
Mr. Johnson, you may begin.
It's my understanding that technically the city hasn't offered the developer a 20-year tax abatement. I believe there was a former city employee that made some indication that that might be something that could be looked at. But it's my understanding that no commitment was ever made by the city at that point to guarantee or anything, a 20-year tax abatement or any length of tax abatement. It's just something that the city was willing to look at and explore. So I don't believe that, and I personally don't believe in 20-year tax abatements. It's too long for the city and the county to go without revenue. And we always need to do what we can to increase our revenue so we can help lower people's taxes.
Mr. Bick?
It's also my understanding that this hasn't been agreed to yet, but at one of the most recent city council meetings when the builder was here, it was brought up about the 20-year tax abatement or the TIF on this particular property. And he mentioned that in the negotiations that it was part of the thing he needed to make this a profitable venture. So I don't know if it's been, because I'm not privy to that information, if it's already been voted on by the city council or if it's been brought up. I was under the assumption that it was already a done deal. So that's what I know.
Okay, so this is a question from Dennis Wilhott, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. So Dennis writes, admittedly, Ottumwa has a substance abuse problem. Do you believe the city council and/or mayor should take steps to correct this problem? If yes, what skills do you bring to change this sad reality?
Mr. Bick, you may begin.
Okay, that's probably one of the toughest issues we have in this town, being known as the meth capital and a bunch of other things. And I see it firsthand as a police chaplain. Solving that is no easy issue. I would have to fall back on that there's some mental health issues, and I'm not demeaning people's character or anything by that, but I'm talking in terms of people who, I'm talking to people that resort to that sort of thing, have self-worth issues, other things going on. And I don't know how a mayor or city council could do that, except that offer programs or school programs that start teaching self-worth, self-value into people so that they don't feel neglected and that they have to resort to that sort of thing to medicate life. So.
Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Gene. Having had an extensive background in human service, I do totally understand the problems that we have with mental health and substance abuse in our town. I do think a lot of agencies have tried to develop additional programs to meet those needs. I know, for instance, at River Hills, we've developed an extensive behavioral health program. And there's still more that needs to be done. Should the city be directly involved in that? I don't know if that's the city's responsibility to be directly involved in funding human service programs, but I think they should be supportive and provide some guidance and provide some leadership in making sure that we have the necessary programs available to help the people in our community that have those issues.
Okay. This is a question from Travoy Cavanis. How do you feel Indian Hills figures in job growth for Ottumwa?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Johnson, you may begin.
Well, I think number one, we're very fortunate to have Indian Hills Community College in our community. They're one of the outstanding community colleges that we have in Iowa, and I think we're extremely fortunate they're located in Ottumwa. With that said, they have some very good training programs that offer opportunities for people to be trained in degreed programs and apprenticeship programs. So Indian Hills does play a vital role in job education and job training and retention of people. One of the concerns that I have, though, is Indian Hills has some outstanding jobs in robotics and in laser. We don't have a lot of employers in Iowa that use those skills, so we're exporting a lot of our trained people, young people out of state to go to Colorado and California. We need to develop a strategy for getting some of those companies to come and relocate in Iowa so we don't keep losing all of our young educated people.
Mr. Bick?
Yeah, Indian Hills is a tremendous asset to the community. Not only education-wise and degree programs, but Matt Thompson, the president over there, is highly involved in developing trade skills, and so all the different trades that people are they're producing out there, HVAC, carpenters, mechanics, welders, all the things that these guys are all getting jobs, and 86% of their graduates stay in the 10-county area that Indian Hills serves. Yes, we lose mostly the laser people. We have some robotics that stay here, but the laser people there. But that would be a good thing with our airport out there, is to recruit a laser company to come here. But yeah, Indian Hills is an absolute 100% positive asset to the community. And support their bond November 2nd.
Okay, so this question comes from Brenda Case, and she writes, tell us about a time when you had a conflict with a person who was very emotional and how you resolved it. And she also notes, as mayor, you are likely to hear from dissatisfied citizens on any number of subjects. And how are you going to respond?
Mr. Bick, you may begin.
That's kind of an open question if you don't have a specific issue. So I think the bottom line is being able to listen, find a common denominator to talk to the person about, and then present steps to a solution. Without having a specific issue, I think it makes it very difficult to answer that. But listening, understanding, offering compassion in a situation, and being transparent is probably going to be the best answer to that.
Mr. Johnson?
I do think that it's very important that people are listened to and that people feel like they're being heard and that they're being understood. A lot of times people get very emotional and stuff when they don't feel like they're being listened to or heard. And there's some real skills that I feel I have in being able to de-escalate situations where people are irate or upset. You have to have a calm approach and make sure that they have adequate time to share their ideas and their beliefs. And I think another important thing is to ask them if they have a possible suggestion or a solution that they would like to have you think about, and kind of see if they have some valuable input that can also be incorporated in any kind of decision that gets made.
Mr. Bick?
Oh,
I
think
thought I answered it.
He went, yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
I thought you had another idea.
Did I miss something?
our next question is from Jason Weller. What are your views on trying to make the COVID vaccine mandatory?
Okay. I think, Mr. Johnson, you begin.
Being a healthcare organization that gets Medicare, Medicaid funding, we are waiting for a new policy from OSHA that's going to be coming out the end of October, where we are going to be mandated to have our staff be vaccinated for the COVID virus. So I think for most healthcare organizations, it's getting to be pretty much a mandated thing that you're going to have to comply with. If they don't comply and get vaccinated, then I think they are going to be willing to look at options like weekly testing. They could maybe qualify for a religious or a medical exemption, but I think those are going to be pretty limited. I think, I understand people have opinions about vaccinations and the pros and cons of whether they should or shouldn't get vaccinated. And it's unfortunate that some of the political ramifications in this country have kind of overshadowed that. I really think it's important for people to think more about being healthy and protecting yourself and the people around you. And so I'm very supportive of people being vaccinated for COVID, and I hope more people are going to take that approach in the future.
Mr. Bick?
Well, I'm not, I've read both sides of it, so I'm not convinced about the vaccine yet. So I'm going to, my position on that is, if you want to get vaccinated, go ahead and get vaccinated. If you don't want to get vaccinated, don't get vaccinated, but don't make it a mandate. And that's where I'm going to be. I don't think we should be, that this should be mandated to us. I think it should be our personal choice.
Okay.
Okay, we have a question from Denise Dennis, and she said, I want your opinion on the roundabout they're planning to put in at Albia Road and Quincy. Do you agree with it? She said, I live by it and drive a few times a day. And she said she doesn't have to wait more than 30 seconds.
Okay. Mr. Bick, it's your turn to start.
Roundabouts, I've never been a fan of them, but I think the research on them shows that there's less accidents and better traffic flow when you have them. Now that we are used to the ones on the ferry extension, I think traffic moves a lot better through there, although I have seen people go the wrong way on them, but which can be a problem. But that particular intersection, I think it'll be okay long-term and allow traffic to move faster through there.
Mr. Johnson?
Well, I didn't know Quincy intersects with Albia Road, I guess, number one. But number two, I also agree that I think roundabouts are an efficient way of having traffic move smoothly without everybody having to stop and start, stop and start. I mean, even in a roundabout, you have to watch for yield signs. But in the roundabouts that have been constructed in Ottumwa, for the most part, from my understanding, they've had very few accidents, and I think it has really helped people be able to get through those intersections in a more smooth and timely fashion. So I'm not opposed to roundabouts at all. I think it's just a new way of looking at formatting your roads.
Okay, so we have a question from Kristen Payne, and I do also want to say we had a very similar question from another person, but the question is, as a council person or as mayor, would you support proclamations and permits for LGBTQ events such as Pride Month and Pride block parties?
Okay. Rick Johnson, you may start.
I'm glad that question's been asked. I was going to save this for my closing comments, but I think I'll go ahead and say a few things right now. This election is not about candidates' sexual orientation or their religious beliefs or their marital status. This election is about who's best qualified to lead the city in the future. I think that, it's very clear in the city's comprehensive plan that diversity is something that the city has earmarked as a high need to continue to develop. And the LGBT community is obviously part of our community. That's part of our diversity. And I think we need to look upon that group of people just like we would all the other ethnic and minority groups in Ottumwa, because they have a value that they can bring to our community. And I think we need to do everything we can to embrace all of our ethnic groups and communities.
Mr. Bick?
Well, I'm going to disagree here a little bit. First of all, I read the comprehensive plan, and I'm all one for diversity and uniting our different people groups. And so in the diversity plan, in our comprehensive plan, it talks about Asians and Latinos and different people groups, but it identifies them as race and ethnicities. And then it adds the LGBTQ group, okay? Now, I understand that's a group of people, but that's a group of people by sexual preference. So I have a hard time identifying it as a race or ethnicity and giving it a special preference that way. So I'd have a hard time supporting it. The other groups, yes, because if you pick this sexual preference group, what about the pedophile group? Are you going to give them special preference? Or well, I won't go any farther, but because I could say other things that I've dealt with as a minister with that. But this is, to me, it's a sexual preference group, not a race or ethnicity.
Okay. We've reached the point in the forum where we're going to ask each of you to give your 2-minute closing statement. Mr. Bick began, so I'm going to ask Mr. Johnson to begin the closing statement.
Okay, thank you, Jean. As I kind of implied earlier, I do think this election is really about who has the best qualifications and experience to lead the city of Ottumwa in the future, who has the most knowledge of the real issues that Ottumwans are facing every day, who has proven success and experience in developing positive and productive community partnerships and successful organizations. Also, who has the ability to think outside of the box to find new ways of doing the city's business in a global and emerging environment, who has a proven track record of being transparent and being committed to having open communication at all levels of an organization, who is creative and innovative in finding proactive solutions to issues that face our community, and most importantly, who can give the citizens of Ottumwa a real voice in how their town is being governed. I think that's extremely important. As a CEO and area administrator for the past 36 years, I'm very confident I possess the needed skills to effectively lead Ottumwa into the future. I truly believe in Ottumwa and its citizens, and I will always give my full commitment and dedication to the job if I'm elected as your next mayor. I do think that we need to really embrace everyone that lives in this community, including people who might have a different sexual preference from other people. We don't admonish straight people or married people, so why would we do that with any other group? And they are an important part of our community, just like the other ethnic and minority groups are in Ottumwa, and we need to embrace that and find a way that we can all come together and work together and be, instead of being decisive, because that's not productive and you're not going to get outcomes that are going to be good for this city. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Bick?
I agree. I think the best qualifier, one of the best skill set should be mayor. The sexual preference doesn't run into that. And I want to make that clear because I'm feeling like I'm being accused here a little bit. And I don't want to be there because I'm not there. But so with that, in closing, I just want to say I'm excited about what Ottumwa can become. It's a city with lots of new home construction going on, a city with a viable plan for repairing our roads, a city that has major corporations knocking at its door wanting to move here, a city that is working towards being debt-free, a city that has a positive outlook, and a city that has an even more positive future, a city that is hospitable and cares for others, a city that it embraces diversity, a city whose citizens are proud to call themselves Ottumwans. And with me as your mayor, that's what we will foresee together.
Thank you, Mr. Bick. We will close this portion. Thank you both for running for office and speaking directly to the voters. We'll take a
Thank you.
very short. We'll take a very short break and ask that the city council candidates come forward to be on the panel.
Oh, okay. Which one are you? Oh, that was a good question. Oh, okay. Oh, I can just, you vote for three.
I'm assuming it's Kara than me.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's kind of a procedural question. Yeah. We'll get to vote on the debate. Okay. Okay. Let me write that down. That's a little complicated. Okay. Of the new county.
Let me see. I'll let you know.
Everybody say we can adjust it or whatever.
Yeah.
So many of these chairs, they have so many different adjustments. You just don't know what. You're right. No.
Up high enough? Oh, you just put down.
Oh, it'll be fine.
That's how low you want to go.
Well, so far, we're all 1-0. We're sitting in the right seats. Huh?
Okay.
Well, they do rotate them.
Well, I want somebody else to hear.
Yes. Well, at least now we halfway know the questions.
Okay, so this is like a procedural question.
Musical chairs when it's locked.
Okay.
Yeah, she probably would. Three.
Is this the microphone I use?
I think you can take your pick actually, because I've got this one. He's got that one too.
Now, I just got another question about the Bonita project. So, and then,
Oh no.
so I think.
I got
what I'm
bony
gonna do,
elbows,
I'm gonna
though,
ask a question about Bonita,
I'll
If you get poked,
and then I'll
Yeah,
ask a
you get
question
poked.
about the procedure.
we'll be passing it down.
More of a marine thing, huh?
I'll poke her, she pokes me.
Yeah, we might run out.
That's good.
I like you with me.
Yeah.
so I think the buzzer's
Oh, yeah, would you, yeah, there's like 3 questions about, I know, but I'm gonna say there's several. Yeah,
What chairs
You do.
well,
No,
I'm not, they're all the same.
Yeah.
They're basically all the same
one of these
question.
mini.
yes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna ask
Matt
one.
helped me out with mine the last time when it was rocking.
That's the man.
Essentially,
Add that to the resume.
All right.
He can put that in his closing statement
He
too.
could do that.
I'm a chair
Yes, he
preparer.
can.
so,
You know,
so
you'll
yeah,
get that
so I
buzzer.
will let them
That'll
know
get-
that we have literally 4 questions on this topic. And so,
Not used to being so tall.
yeah, I'll ask one and let them know there's
You might have
multiple.
to raise up, because they might not
Okay.
see you like, hope the mic's on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Because I thought it, I did not read it properly.
No, I moved it back up. I'm just the shortest one, so. You'll be all right.
Yes. Should I start?
Free flow.
Sometimes those can be much natural.
Can I start? Good evening, everyone. I wanted to make a brief announcement about voting before we start asking the city council our questions. So, as you're probably aware, it's a very quick turnaround to try to get an absentee ballot at this point, because the rule is that requests for absentee ballots have to be in 11 days before the election, but they also have to be received by the auditor's office by that Friday before the election, which would be October 29. And then once you get it, and you put it in the mail, you have to allow 5 days as the recommended time for the post office to deliver it, and it has to be received by 8 p.m. on election day. So we want you to be aware that it's a quick turnaround to try to get an absentee ballot. So we want to encourage everyone who's physically able to please show up to vote early at the courthouse, or also for Wapello County residents, you can go to Indian Hills tomorrow. So it's one day only. They're having voting at Indian Hills for Wapello residents from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. in their main lounge, which I believe if you take the entrance, which you would take in to their library, that would be the area where they'd be doing voting. So, and of course, also November 2nd is available as well. Thank you. Yes, so
Yes,
anybody in
correct.
Wapello, yes, thank you for clarifying that.
There's only one ballot, so it'll be at both places. Thank you, Carolyn. The second part of our forum will deal with those persons who want to serve as city council members. We're going to begin by allowing each of them to make an opening statement, and we will begin with Kara Galloway.
Thank you, Jean. My name is Kara Galloway, as Jean just pointed out. And first and foremost, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for having us tonight and giving us the opportunity to talk with you all, answer your questions, and also share our ideas with you. Secondly, I want to thank each and every one of you out there tonight, whether you're in the audience, watching on YouTube, or watching on GoTV. I appreciate your dedication and your commitment to educating yourself about the 6 of us up here, and prior to your vote, whether it's in the next couple days or November 2nd. So I want to start by just saying that this race, again, is about ensuring that the person that you elect to city council is there to make decisions on what's best for Ottumwa and Ottumwa citizens. This race is about a person that has the background, the knowledge, and the education to be able to make decisions that are based in transparency, communication, and knowledge-based decisions. I think that my background shows that I am committed to this community, that I am involved in this community, and that I believe in this community. I have been going to city council meetings and county meetings for long before I decided to run. And I truly believe that I have the knowledge, the information, and the experience to be able to represent all Ottumwans. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Mr. Hall?
Thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and everybody that's in attendance and on television here. Come November 2nd, you have a very unique opportunity that I don't think I've seen in my 40 years of life. You will vote for a new mayor and 3 new city council candidates. It's guaranteed that that's going to happen. This is going to give Ottumwa a fresh start. And I think that each and every one of you should talk to your family, your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, and get them involved in the process. Because without them, this process is nothing. So we need their votes. And so I implore you to pay attention to what is said here tonight, and more importantly, what is not said. Watch for the questions that are not answered and pay attention to those, because I believe that speaks volumes. So I implore you to listen to us, make you the best decision from what you hear from the candidates straight from their mouths. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Mr. McIntyre?
Yes, thank you to the League of Women Voters and everybody that showed up tonight. I think it's a plus for the city of Ottumwa because I think there's more people here tonight in attendance than what there was last time. So that's a plus. I think having 3 new council members and a new mayor, along with, we have a fairly new administrator in Phil Rath. We have a fairly new Jill Rill, John Deere, Kelly Jenners. We have fairly new police chief, fairly new financial director, fairly new HR director, fairly new superintendent of our schools, and fairly new superintendent at Indian Hills with Matt Thompson. So I think there's a lot to offer the voters. There's going to be people that vote for different people for different reasons, but I think I shared last time that I've been involved in the community for over 30 years. My wife says I've really been campaigning since back then, but not realize I'd ever run for council. So what you see with me out in the community, that's who I am. What you're going to see with me tonight, that's who I am too. So thank you.
Ashley?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Jean. First, I also would like to begin with thanking the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum tonight. I apologize I wasn't able to join you last month. I was getting reacquainted with a new squadron, a new role. I'm an executive officer in my aviation logistics squadron down in Fort Worth, Texas. So I was serving in that capacity, and actually had been serving in that capacity last weekend, but happy to be back here today. It's a bit of a homecoming for me. Last time I was up here was in 2017 when I ran before being activated in the Marine Corps for a couple of years of training. Really looking forward to sharing my background and particularly answering questions from the audience tonight on the issues that are important to you. Here today in Ottumwa, I live on the north side. I'm a homeowner, pay my taxes, live on a nice historic brick street. I love it. Maintain my yard. I work for FedEx Ground. I'll be back at work at 3:30 tomorrow morning, getting ready to load all of your packages, all your e-commerce onto a truck to show up at your doorstep tomorrow. I'd previously used my education I gained here in Ottumwa. I was a tutor in the math lab, so I've helped many of struggling students through their most terrible class, which is statistics, and got them through a program there. Love school, love to learn, and happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. Sandra?
Thank you for the invitation here tonight. My name is Sandra Pope. I am just honored to have this opportunity. I really am. This is bigger than almost giving birth to my children, but it's all good. I am excited to be here. I have 4 children, 5.5 grandchildren, and I'm loving this city. I came here 31 years ago on a mission, basically to save my children's life because my neighborhood back in Ohio had become dangerous for them to grow up in. So to come here to Ottumwa to raise my children has been an honor. Along with that, I have the grandchildren that just is the light of my life. And my husband passed 9 years ago. And all my family wanted me to move back to Ohio. Come on back to Ohio. I'm like, not gonna happen. I love this city. I love the people of this city. And I want to work towards making the city, it's already great. It's already a great city to live in. I just want to be a part of something better. And I'm excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt?
Good evening. My name is Matt Pringle. As November 2nd is quickly approaching, I encourage everyone to go vote. The ballot box is the place where you can make your opinion count. If you are a conservative, I am certainly one of the candidates for which you should vote. I have certainly not made it a practice to be anyone's finger puppet, nor will that ever be a goal of mine. However, I do realize that one of the original intents of the United States Constitution was that a voter is supposed to control the government at all levels and not the government control the voter. As a future member of the City Council, I can work side by side with anyone who is willing to gather reliable, factual information to make the best decision for the physical safety and the future prosperity of Ottumwa. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. We will have the first question from the League.
So Ottumwa is expected to receive several $1 million from the American Rescue Plan. So although we don't have all the information or know the constraints at this time, what are your initial thoughts on what should be done with that money and why?
We will begin with Russ Hall.
So we're going to get, I believe it's 1.8 million at the end of this year and 1.8 million at the end of the next year. And I actually attended the here speaking forum thing that Mayor Lazio held for the citizens. There was a lot of great ideas at that. And one that I didn't really hear was we can use it to rebuild housing. And I believe that we could use that money to help some of the lower income people that live in Ottumwa and make a grant program of sorts to give them some grants, some help, maybe just to put new windows in the house, put a new roof on the house, put new siding on the house, something that, you know, if we give them a little bit of a tax break now, later on when they're back on their feet, or, you know, if it's something that they can use to sell the house, we can get some tax money off of it later on. Basically a return on our investment. So I think that would be a great opportunity for the city with this money to build a program like that.
Mr. McIntyre?
Yes, I would, it's really hard to pinpoint what we'd spend the money on until we know exactly how much it's going to be. And with the government, a lot of times they'll tell you that certain percentage has to go to this and certain percentage has to go to that. So I want to let the citizens know ahead of time when that does happen, whoever becomes a council member, that you need to let us take that into consideration, that we didn't necessarily do something because we wanted to. Our hands were tied to a certain degree with that. But I think the number one thing we do as a city council member, once monies come in and we know how it's going to be divided out, that we get a priority list, just like we would at our house. If someone gave us some money or passed away and donated money, but there wasn't enough money to fix everything in the house, just like no matter how much money they give us, it's not going to be enough to fix every problem that the city has. So I ask you guys that trust in us as a council, that we will come together, make a priority list that may not make everybody happy, but it'd be what we think is best for the city.
Thank you. Ms. Noriel?
Yes, ma'am. So I looked at the news reports that came out of the last public forum on the ARP funding, and I found basically 3 categories of projects that should probably be invested in. The first is one that I would refer to as like deferred maintenance. You know, where do we know we have an expense coming up? Where are we accepting that cost at a later time that we can now, with the ARP funding, pay for that cost up front now, as opposed to pushing it down the road any further? So first category is deferred maintenance. Second category is gains and efficiencies. So I think any way that we can make our current staff or our current policies more effective so that it provides greater public benefit without increasing any future costs, right? We don't want to tie our hands by investing in something that's going to cost more money each year after that. Increasing those efficiencies would be a second category. And I think the dispatch system that's been proposed is both of those categories. And the third would be any public works that are available for all. That'd be the third category.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Pope?
I would invest the money in the future of Ottumwa, which is the children. The generations coming up, a community center that offer so many different things to our diverse city. I mean, they could have an arts program. They could have programs in the community center that will protect the children. The children would come and they would share what they have, the differences, and what they have alike. I think that would be the biggest investment we could do, would be in our children's future. Thank you.
Mr. Pringle?
I know in our home, whenever we might receive, let's just say, an amount of $5,000 that we were not expecting, the truth of the matter is, the first natural response is to spend it or to update something or improve something. But sometimes the most responsible thing is to pay past debt. And I know that we've been talking about this $350,000 that the city of Ottumwa was on the hook for. Well, that's only 10% of 3.6 million. I mean, it's less than 3%. So we could pay past debt and get that off our back. And I know that's not the fun thing to do, but that's sometimes the most adult responsible thing to do. The other thing is again, we don't know what the money can be spent for. Does it have to be something physical? Some other criteria would be requires, and I think Ashley spoke on this just a little bit, requires kind of whatever we do or purchase or make, requires a minimum upkeep of the Ottumwa city employees going forward. So we don't want to build each other more work. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Galloway?
Yes. So I guess I would start. There's many things I would want to spend the funding on. First and foremost, I'm guessing a lot of people are like, why don't we repair roads and fix roads? This money cannot be used for roads. So I just want to put that out there. But I would also ensure that the funds that we do spend with this money are used for items we can't use or get funds elsewhere. So for example, with the CDBG-CV grant, we can pay for daycare facilities, facades, food banks, housing maintenance, different things like that. So I would support the money going to the computer-aided dispatch system, which is the CAD program most people are talking about. I would also look at what quality of life amenities that will bolster economic development can we use this money to be spent on. We want to ensure that whatever we spend this money on, that it's sustainable and that it's going to have the most impact for Ottumwa and the Ottumwa citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we received a number of questions about the Bonita project. So I'm going to ask the question that was asked to the city council, but also we've received several questions that are just asking your opinion on the Bonita housing project. So this question came from Marty Anderson. I'm concerned that the city would consider a 20-year tax abatement on the Bonita apartment complex. So per the Times Republican, which is a Marshalltown newspaper, the city of Ottumwa offered Hugo Rich developers a 20-year tax abatement for the 180-unit apartment. So is this true? And then again, we had several questions just asking for your opinion on the Bonita project.
Okay, Mr. McIntyre?
Yes, I think the mayor candidates touch base on that. And I think there's a lack of communication somewhere, because I don't know if the city council had discussed that, made the deal or not, or did the Marshalltown newspaper speak out of line. So I think we all have the same amount of questions, the same amount of opinions. I'm not a fan of giving a private company a 20-year tax break when we have more problems that we need to solve here, and we can't keep benefiting a situation like that when 2 or 3 days later, most of us got a card in the mail where our taxes went up. So it probably wasn't a very good game plan on their part. But so I'm not a fan of that, but I'll know more if I become a council member. So I'll be in them meetings to be able to let the citizens know what is going on and what we're planning on doing moving forward.
Thank you. Ms. Noriel?
Yes, ma'am. So housing is definitely a need in the community, and I look forward to putting forth different initiatives to support the expansion of housing in the community. In the Bonita case specifically, I did read the council packet from the last meeting, and it is not an authorized, fully approved TIF. It is still in the process. It'll go to the Planning and Zoning Commission before coming back to the council, and will come before the council again on an election day. So it is not done yet. From reading the packet, I had a number of questions regarding how that TIF would be paid out. There's 2 projects in the TIF, if you read it. One is the development itself, the housing units, and then the second project is a potential for road repairs. And off the top of my head, it was maybe 650,000, maybe 250,000. One of those 2 stick out to me. I think it was 650,000. So how do we prioritize that particular project should it come to fruition within the context of that TIF? Number of questions, as I said.
Okay. Ms. Pope?
I had the opportunity to ride out there and look around and see what was going on and talk to a few neighbors. I believe in listening to our community. If they have questions about that, we need to be the ones to be answering them. We don't need to just let things slide. If I'm going to pay higher property taxes for something that they're building, I agree. We do need housing. But if it's going to affect my taxes and someone else get a break by building it, I feel that's a problem for me. But the project within itself will create housing for our community. But the tax break, I don't think they should get that. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Pringle?
It was my understanding as I read some things online and past city council that the key words I think the city's got to approve the Bonita area as an urban renewal area. I could be wrong, but I think that's the key words, an urban renewal area. As far as the 20-year TIF, I'm going to let my ignorance shine here a little bit. I don't know enough about a TIF. I mean, can you operate a TIF similar to a 401k plan in that it's vesting, to where the first so many years, in other words, you don't have 100% TIF. You might have a 80%, and then as time goes on, it goes down to 60 and it goes down to 40 and on and kind of be a vested type thing. I don't know if that's even possible, but just a thought. And I do know that it's my understanding, according to what I've read, is that there will be a public hearing on this on November 2nd. And so it will be an opportunity for the public to come and for us to be able to, for the city council to be able to listen to their concerns.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Galloway?
Thank you. First, I want to say I think Ashley laid out the TIF project very well. So I'm not going to say that again. But I will comment. I did read the article that is referenced in this, and the developer did identify that he to the Marshalltown Council that he was offered that TIF. So it's an article that I encourage everyone to read. I will tell you that with TIFs, I think that for a TIF to be approved by council, the benefits need to outweigh the cost. We need to ensure that there is what are the financial and the financial benefits and also the physical benefits. And will those benefits be immediate? And not only be immediate, but will they be long-term too? So I don't think that any TIF should be approved when the costs outweigh the benefits. And right now, from the information I know and the conversations I've had, I do not see how the benefits are outweighing the costs at this point. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Ho?
Yeah, thank you. So I'll address this in 2 parts. So the first part was asking about whether or not the city council or anybody approved this or they were given that or whatever. In negotiating business, you throw a lot of things out there. And I believe that it could have possibly been somebody within the city that was negotiating with this development that says, hey, maybe we could get you a 20-year TIF. But as we've pointed out several times, we have new administration in the city of Ottumwa. And this plan was started before the new city administrator came in, so it could have started before. That's my understanding, is it started with the previous planner or whatever. So I believe that he had to kind of go forward with it. So it's brought to the city council. The city council gets a chance to stop it. So I hope that they do on November 2nd. So that's my time. Thank you.
For those of you out there who are knowledgeable, I believe that the TIF stands for tax increment financing. Is that correct? We should have clarified that at the beginning of this question, I guess. Would you
Okay,
like to?
So our next question is a procedural question. And so feel free to correct me if I misspeak on this. It's a little bit complicated. So the question was raised of the new city council members, who will be the one that gets to vote on this abatement? One of our audience members had heard that the person with the highest number of votes will be able to vote on city council members before the others. So if you could speak to that, is that correct? Is that, and if anyone, if any of you know the actual procedure.
Doug?
The person, Ashley Noriel is the person who was supposed to begin. Did you want to deal with that, or do you want someone else to?
I mean, are we all going to give the same answer 6 times? Okay, so my understanding is the highest vote getter will be able to take a seat for Skip Stevens, as Rick Johnson is currently filling that by appointment. It was not elected. So whoever the highest vote getter is will assume that seat. The next 2 highest vote getters will assume their seats at the regular transition of the term in January. And we said the next public hearing on the Bonita project is November 2nd. That's a public hearing, so I don't know if there'll be voting that night as well. No. So the voting would happen subsequently. So yes, whoever the highest vote getter among the 6 of us here should be able to vote for or against that project.
Okay. Okay, so next one.
So I do want to just add, so November 2nd is the election.
Whoa. Wait.
Sorry.
Everybody
Sorry.
needs a chance to answer that. So Ms. Pope, you would be next in terms of answering, if you want to answer the question
Go ahead,
about
Well,
who gets
I mean,
Mr. Stevens' seat.
Ashley answered it, and I understand it that way as well.
Okay.
But that person would not be able to vote that night.
Right.
Because the election will be going on for us as well. So November 2nd would not be the night that that person take their seat, because I don't think they're going to be able to count those votes that quick. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But if they could, then that person could. But at this time, I don't believe that that's going to be a possibility.
Okay. Mr. Pringle.
Ashley's explanation was exactly what I would have said.
Okay. Ms. Galloway.
I would just add that the person with the highest votes takes office within 10 days of winning the election. And it's my understanding that November 2nd is just the public hearing, a vote's not taking place. So then if they would take office within 10 days they would be seated at the next council meeting, and then they would vote if that's the next council meeting or thereafter has the Bonita project vote.
Thank you. Mr. Hull.
Yeah. So basically that was what I was going to add is November 2nd's election, 10 days from then, that's when somebody will take the Skip Stevens seat. So you will be seated before the second city council meeting in November. So if it gets pushed to after that, then whoever gets the most votes on November 2nd will take that seat within 10 days of the election.
Okay. Mr. Mcintyre, is there anything you would
Guess
like to
what my
add?
answer is going to be. Just say it. That's the way I understood it too. Now, The only thing that a question I suppose I would ask is whoever that top vote getter is there a date that they're going to vote on that set? Because it might be pushed back a little bit further, maybe. Because I haven't seen where there's a certain date that they're going to vote on that.
I would guess you are correct. I would assume they're going to discuss it and then decide when to vote on it. Kind of up in the air. Next.
Okay, I'm going to ask the same LGBTQ question as I did for the mayors. And just to let you know, we received 4 questions regarding support for the LGBTQ community. So as a council person, and this is from Kristen Payne, as a council person, you'll be voting on proclamations and permits for events. Will you support LGBTQ proclamations and events such as Pride Month and the Pride Block Party? Yes or no?
Ms. Pope, you may begin.
Yes, I would support them because they would be part of the community. I couldn't exclude them. That's just like excluding me because I'm Black. I would not exclude anyone that lives in this community and pay their property taxes. They need to all be included. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Pringle.
No, not at all. What Sandra just said is not quite the same. When celebrating a minority group, we must maintain absolute scientific, biological genetics and not behavioral choices. Many Ottumwa citizens were disappointed in the city council's decision this past June. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Galloway.
I would 100% support them. People don't choose to be gay or choose who they love. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Hull?
So this is a pretty contentious thing to talk about in this world. And I would support us doing the proclamation. Yes, I would support us giving them the block. And, I'd go a step further, and the city really needs to embrace not just the LGBT community, but all communities, and raise them up and give them the same support that you would any other white male living in this community. And if we can't do the minimum and show the kids of this community that we support them and we love them, then they're going to leave this town for somewhere better. And that's the bare minimum, giving them the block and giving them a proclamation. And I support it 100%.
Mr. McIntyre?
Yes, I got a phone call yesterday from a friend of mine that said that the group was accusing me of saying negative things. And I explained to my friend that I never said that. And so we had a really long discussion. And I told her that my religious beliefs is one thing, but I can't discriminate on the other side of that. So I said to her that I would like to meet them and talk with them. And then she had sent me the text and said, would you like to meet with them? And I said, absolutely. So she's going to get a hold of them. And I guess they got to vote as a group if a person can come in and speak. But yes, I would.
Yeah. Okay. Ms. Noriel?
I think every life is valuable. And I think, I believe in the freedoms that we have in America. It's one of the reasons why I serve in uniform. And I think it's important to kind of, as Sandra addressed, that every person feels welcome here in the community and not judged or belittled or felt less than. And I think those are the policies that I would try to articulate: reconciliation, acceptance, and that every life, every individual is valued and important here in the community.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Brenda Case regarding fiscal responsibility. So fiscal responsibility and overseeing the city budget is an important government function. Explain your philosophy around budgeting and your experience. And I'm sorry, I can't quite read your handwriting, but your experience with the budget. So, I'm sorry, setting a budget and following a budget.
Mr. Pringle, you get to start.
For the longest time, we have had envelopes at our house and we pay pretty much everything cash. I don't even have a checking account. I don't like balancing the checkbook. And so we pay everything cash and money orders, so everything is up in front. And, you know, I know that's not reality in a city council situation, but at the same time, I am very much a budget-oriented person, and that we assign that much money. When that money's gone, we don't rob Peter to pay Paul. Well, that money's gone. And so next year, we have to bump that up if we have the finances to do so. But we must stick with the budget, and we must stay balanced.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Galloway?
Thank you. So through the work I do every day for my employment, I manage nothing quite like the city budget, but I do manage multiple grants through the 501c3 arm of my program. And through that, as Matt had identified, you know, I do have a very clear budget of this is how much I'm going to spend on this project or this program, or this is my office expenses. So I do run a pretty tight ship on that. If I have, again, like Matt said, if I have money, I'm short in one area, I don't take from another area, but I reevaluate for next year too. And I also believe in financial transparency. And so there's often times where I meet with multiple people through my agency so we can ensure that we are the most important things are getting paid first, and the things that we may or may not need are at the bottom. We have a list of priorities. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Hall?
So it's my understanding that the city of Atomo's budget's like $60 million or something like that. And I don't have any experience with $60 million. If I did, I wouldn't be driving a semi. I owned my own semi for a couple of years, and so I did have some experience with budgets. And thankfully, with the city of Atomo, we have an amazing financial team. We hired a new head of finance in the city of Atomo, and she does a wonderful job. There's a lot of experienced people within the city, and Mark Rowe is a finance guy, so I'll kind of rely on him to guide me in the areas that I don't know, and that's what I do. I kind of rely on people but like these guys, like everybody else has said, you know, you don't rob one place to pay the other place, and I know that just being able to pay my own bills at home. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre?
Yes, my wife and I are Dave Ramsey followers. He's a guy on the radio that helps people get out of debt. And we've been so blessed. And about 12 years ago, we got, in a year and a half's time, got debt free but our house. So we understood the value of budgeting, and 3 of our 4 daughters were still living at home, and they got to witness that too. They didn't learn at the time, but when they moved out on their own and starting to pay bills and going into debt, they understand. So I do agree with Matt with that money. If there's past debt that we owe, that should be a priority. It may not be fun at the time when you do it, but every meeting you come to, knowing that you knock that out to help the city debt, it would be worth it.
Ms. Noriel?
Yes, I'm a Dave Ramsey graduate as well. I've been through Financial Peace University. But I guess more importantly, maybe for tonight, is I do have business experience, government experience with funds. So my last year of active duty in the Marine Corps, from 29 to 2010, I managed a budget for all the aircraft on the West Coast of the United States, all the Marine Corps aircraft on the West Coast of the United States. It was just over $725 million. And the first thing you need to know about government accounting is that there are different, what I refer to as buckets of money. And one hand is only allowed to go in one bucket. That hand cannot, reach itself into the other bucket. So understanding what those barriers are, sometimes you can ask permission to transfer one set pile of money to another pile of money, so that the hand then can access it in that bucket. And then understanding not just how that money, where that money is, but how you're receiving it, and then adhering to those rules and regulations.
Okay. Ms. Pope?
Everybody up here can budget money. That's a great thing, and especially when you're using other folks' money to budget a city. The people want to make sure that their money is being budgeted right. Now, mind you, at home, my stuff has not always been right. I became a widow at a young age, so I did have to go into another bucket to make ends meet. So I understand things don't always balance itself out, but working for the city of Ottumwa, the city, as a city council member, I would make sure that I would be listening to the council members about things that I don't understand to help me along the way. So I want to graduate to be like everybody sitting up here. I want to become that super budget person. So thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, ready for next question. We have a question from Jason Weller. What is your plan on lowering property taxes?
Ms. Galloway, you are the lucky woman.
Oh, thank you. So I actually sat down with Kayla Mulder, the finance director, right before the last forum, to be honest. Anyways, she had talked, if you haven't sat down and talked with her, I very much recommend it. She is phenomenal and she is intelligent. And she actually talked about the ways that she's looking at lowering different levies to reduce property taxes. Her goal is pretty phenomenal. I think she wants to get it under $20 in the next few years. So honestly, I would continue to follow her plan. So one of the things is, while looking at the budget completely, she has looked at different finances that could be paid from different areas, which lower, again, I'm not a finance person, but anyways, that lower different levies in other areas and, lower different areas. And I think she has a great plan set up, and I do recommend that everyone talk to her. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Hall?
Unfortunately, I haven't got to talk to Kayla yet because I haven't had 6 hours of time to sit down with her. And that's what she told me, 6 hours. So one of the things we can do, and I know we can do, is by building more industry, building more houses, that brings more money in the city, which can help us spread that money around and start lowering our property taxes, hopefully. Just adding more money to the bucket can help us reduce the expenditures other places. So I believe that if we start looking at more industry, we start looking at building more houses, which we desperately need, I believe that that would help us in the long run in helping reduce the taxes.
Okay. Mr. McIntyre?
Yes, I have not met with Kayla yet either. I have a list of different department heads to meet. I've only met with a handful of them because of my schedule. But she would have more of the insight on ways of doing that. Having more housing will be a way of doing it. But I think while we're in the process of doing that, we need to decrease our debt load too, which would also help.
Okay. Ms. Noriel?
Yes, this is a perfect question, segue from our last question. Just as I was saying, understanding the budget is also understanding how you're bringing in the different types of revenue. So in your property taxes, there's two main functions of how much you pay, right? Obviously, the valuation of your property, and that's outside of city business. That's done by the county and the county assessor. And then there's the tax rates. And yes, that we do set. In fact, we set multiple different rates. And those rates can be the general fund rate. They can be basically benefits for the city staff. the library tax fund, and there's about 2 or 3 others that we don't have time for, and I don't have on the top of my head right now. So understanding where we can sort of divest, what grants we could take advantage of to try to cover some of that property tax, and looking at those individual buckets to understand where we can lower property taxes. I think it can continue to be done. The rate itself. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Pope?
I don't know a lot about the property taxes, how it's set up, but I have met Kayla, and this is one of those times where when I talk about mentorship, I would love to shadow her one day just to see and go through the process of how things are done and how we can look through her eyes to see the visions for our city. So with that being said, I look forward to shadowing Kayla around. Thank you.
Mr. Pringle?
I thought we were supposed to have the same questions as the mayor's had, but anyway. No, going back to the money that the city is going to get, I don't even know if we're allowed to, I know it's a one-time purchase, they say, but if we want to be a government that pleases the people, if we would somehow be able to give that $3.6 million literally back to the Ottumwa citizen, and now those that live in Ottumwa, and give a 10% discount on property taxes for the next X amount of years, as long as the money is there. But that would be a one-time kind of a grant kind of thing. Again, not fun for us, but boy, the Ottumwa citizens would enjoy it.
Yeah. Interesting. One more?
So
How many, can we do one more?
we can do,
Okay.
I'm okay if you're okay, Jean.
Okay.
Okay, we actually received 2 questions asking if you thought religion should influence your decisions on the council. So it was yes or no. Do you think religion should influence your decisions?
Okay, Mr. Ho, you may begin.
I know that there's other council members up here or other people up here running that are very religious. I'm not very religious. I believe in religion. I'm okay with other people having their religious beliefs, but it can only guide you in your decisions. If that's your belief, you can let it guide you. But when you sit up here and you make decisions for the city of Ottumwa, you need to make decisions for everyone in Ottumwa. And some people don't have the same religion as others. So if you're making your decisions based on your religion, you can be putting other people out. So I believe it should guide you, but I do not believe it should be your sole decision making.
Thank you. Mr. McIntyre?
Yes, I think it's kind of a wide question. I'm not a religious person. I'm a sold out believer in the Lord Jesus Christ. So the Bible talks about being wise with your money. The Bible talks about being a good parent. And the Bible talks about loving your neighbor as yourself. So when it comes to categories that's going to benefit the citizens of Ottumwa like that, then yes, I will bring my sold out believer personality to the table.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Noriel?
I would follow up along the same lines as Doug. I think it's important to note there is a difference between faith and religion. And I am a Christian. It is fundamentally part of who I am. So I can't disassociate myself with my faith. I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I that live, but he that lives in me. And I think that has produced much fruit for my life. I would not turn around and I would not turn back from it. I think I'm much more able to love my neighbors than I was before. As Doug said, managing finances, being a good steward, inviting others to the table. These are all fruits that for me have come from my Christian walk, which I'm a relatively new believer. I found the Lord here in Ottumwa. It's been very beneficial and good for my life. And I hope that whatever your faith journey is, that you find peace in it for you.
Thank you. Ms. Pope?
Wow. I didn't think that was going to be a question asked, but I'm a faith believer as well. I believe in everything that happened. Everything in the Bible is true. But when you go to the polls on November 2nd, vote with your heart. Vote with what you see before you. Vote on your own morals and standards of what you want Ottumwa to look like, what you want Ottumwa, you're entrusting us with your decision that you make when you go to the polls on November 2nd. So I just say go there and vote with your heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pringle?
I wish I had an hour for this one. The truth of the matter is, I cannot separate my relationship with Jesus Christ from anything I do. I don't care if it's my being a husband or a father, a grandfather, employee, pastor, doesn't matter. The thing about it is, one place where I think we've even missed it even tonight is love. Biblical love doesn't mean acceptance of sin or any other type of lifestyles that go against God's word that's been settled forever in heaven. It's not the fact that I'm against people, and God's not against people. I mean, Jesus Christ died on this cross for all man, all women, all people, all places, all nations, period. Talk about an equal opportunity statement. It's at the foot of the cross. The truth of the matter is, though, I can't accept a sin. But boy, I tell you, the Bible says love is the fulfilling of the law. That's what love is. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Galloway?
So I think I would side more with Russ that everyone probably doesn't believe in the same thing. There's a lot of different views, thoughts, and opinions out there. I think that if you can't separate, if religion and God is a part of you, then that's a part of you. However, I don't think that it should be everything in your decision too. There's facts out there, there's information out there outside of religion. Talking to the community, talking to different departments, that stuff should have a heavy weight on your decisions up here in council. It shouldn't just be solely based on a belief. It should be based, I think Matt actually said this earlier, that decisions should be based in fact. And that is so important. So I'll end my conversation tonight that if religion is a part of you, then let it be a part of you. But city council people need to base their decisions on facts and information. Thank you.
Thank you. We done? Okay. Thank you all for having submitted those questions. Each of the candidates will now make a 2-minute closing statement. And Mr. Mcintyre will begin.
Okay. Doug Mcintyre again, running for city council. One of the things that I'll bring to the table is I'm a people person. My dad was 20 years Air Force. I lived in all different kinds of neighborhoods, all different kind of walks of life. I've learned to get along and love everybody. When I came back and I went in the military, lived in different neighborhoods, different walks of life of people, became friends with all of them. When I came back here, I worked for the cable company for 2 years, which put me in every walks of life of people, different neighborhoods, solved a lot of problems along the way, got along with everybody along the way. Became a mailman for 15 years and got to talk to all different walks of life of people. I didn't get the most votes the last time because people think or know that I'm going to be a good council member. They did it because they know I'm a good person. They know I'm going to bring my best foot forward, and I'm going to handle every situation with the positive, the negatives, the good, and the bad. And then we come to a conclusion after we get the emotion out of the situation. So I appreciate your vote on November 2nd.
Thank you. Ms. Noriel?
Yes, ma'am. Again, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming tonight. Thank the league for putting on the forum. I really enjoyed being here. I enjoyed listening to what it is that's important to you. I know for many of you, this takes you away from your families. For me, it's actually after my bedtime. I said I gotta be at work early tomorrow morning. So myself, I have a very diverse background. I've worked with the cross section of America in the Marine Corps. I've worked for big business. I've worked for startups. I've worked for small governments in the city of Bloomfield. I worked for big government in the Marine Corps. I've worked for nonprofits. So I have a very diverse work background, have a strong education background, love tutoring out there at Indian Hills. These are the things that I think of when I put on my yard signs leadership for today. And then as I think if you listen to my different answers tonight, you'll see that I think through certain issues and I can provide details on certain issues. I'm a detail-oriented individual. Read the 2040 comprehensive plan when it was still in a draft status of June 2020. And that's what I think of when I think of vision for tomorrow, which is the second half of my yard signs. Having good governance, good stewardship, thinking through the details, being able to articulate the details, and focusing out in the future towards that 2040 comprehensive plan. I would look forward to serving on council in January. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pope?
I want to thank the league again for this forum, for us to be able to sit before you and answer questions. Thank you to all 5 of you guys up here just to be represented in this position. I feel honored to be in your presence, all of your presence. And I would bring to the table not only diversity, but I guess beyond what you see before you with my skin color and a woman, I want y'all to see that I would be good for the council. I will be the person that y'all need. And you did get the most votes, didn't you, Doug? I plan on getting the most next. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out here on the table, but I am in the company of some great people. So I'm honored just to be in this position. Thank you.
Mr. Pringle?
It is my sincere hope that this forum has been beneficial to the voters of Ottumwa. I would like to express my gratitude to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring the second round of public questions. From organizing to communicating to planning and even to the implementation, all things have been done decently and in order. This is in addition to my closing statement, since you gave us 2 minutes, and it applies to the previous conversation. I agree that sexual orientation does not affect a person's intellect or their ability to make a wise business decision, but it does tell the Ottumwa voter where they will stand on certain moral issues and whether or not that voter wants to go that way. Transparency has been a key word stated often up here, and all of us need to be an open book and not just in June. To each one that has attended tonight, thank you for caring enough about Ottumwa to invest time in becoming better informed. As a future member of the council, I look forward to listening to and echoing your concerns in a public arena. If you are a conservative, I am very confident that I will not let you down in the next 4 years. As I stated on the first forum, read about, listen to, and study each candidate, and then vote for the ones that best reflect your desire for the future of Ottumwa. Your vote does matter. Please go vote for mayor, council, and yes, the IHCC bond. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Galloway?
Again, my name is Kara Galloway. I just want to start by saying I work every day, whether it's in my everyday employment or my volunteer activities, to make Ottumwa better. I have worked with the most vulnerable of people and worked with people who, in my volunteer experiences, who are absolutely amazing. I truly believe in one Ottumwa. I think the word unity was used tonight on multiple occasions. And I truly believe that being a unified community and living that word of one Ottumwa, that means that we listen to everyone, and we ensure that everyone feels safe in their community. Again, my volunteer work, I think, and my commitment to this community on the different boards and commissions I sit on has shown that I believe in Ottumwa. I am here to better Ottumwa, and I will listen to you. I will be a knowledgeable council person, and I will ensure that I hear an issue from all sides. So I ask that you vote for me on November 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hull?
Thank you. So my name is Russell Hall. On November 2nd, you get to go vote, or if you haven't, if you can vote early, for 3 new city council members and a new mayor. And I implore you to go vote. I implore you to get your family and friends out to vote because it is important. For anybody that doesn't think that your vote counts, we have had races in the last couple years that have literally came down to 5 and 6 votes. So get your friends and family out there, get them to vote. I would like for you to vote from your heart, vote for the candidate that most holds your values. And I hope that I'm that candidate, but if I'm not, I won't hold it against you. So we all live in a bubble. We all live, friends, family, coworkers, they're all our bubble, and we talk to them. We, as a city council person, will need to go outside of our bubble, and I'm good at that. I'm good at going out in the community and getting the opinion of everyone. Because you're not just representing the city of Ottumwa when you're up here. You're representing the people that are coming to this community, and you're making decisions for them on businesses that are here, housing that is here. And you have to look at the future generations that may move here or are going to be born here. And those are the things that I hold dear to me. Is I want the future generation to love this town like I've loved this town. So please go out and vote on November 2nd. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this forum on. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you everyone for being here. Remember that in addition to the council and mayor, there's also the bond referendum on the ballot, as well as there are 3 unopposed school board members running as well. Thank you very much.
Yes, and I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's been in the audience. We think a lot about voting as being what we do in a democracy. There are all kinds of steps that lead up to that, and one of them for voters is being informed about what you are voting about. So there are 3 items that you'll be voting on November 2nd, or hopefully before. Remember, the courthouse will allow you to vote down there. Avoid the rush on November 2nd. And thank you to all of the candidates who took time and energy and a willingness to serve. Travel safely to your homes tonight.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you, Jean. Yeah.